I hope you guys had a wonderful day. I am taking my second walk of the day. You might hear chainsaws buzzing in the background. That's a neighbor that's having an old dead tree removed. I forgot that tree has been up since I was a little boy, so it's kind of like seeing a family member get chopped down. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. Remember, this channel is not about just venting and whining and moaning and complaining. It's about doing something. One of the things that we need to do as people is we need to make self-improvements constantly, because if you're staying the same, you're actually falling behind, right? Because as we age, things tend to fall apart, right? Things start to fall off and start to perform weird. Is that a little TMI? Anyway, the main thing is if you keep moving, you stay younger longer. Remember, even if it's a 20-minute walk in the morning and a little 15 or 20-minute walk in the afternoon or late or early evening, that's all it takes to be a healthier version of you. And let's be honest, when you walk and it's nice outside and you get the fresh air in your lungs, that's a good thing. Guys, sometimes people look at working out and they say, God, that's a little form of self-punishment. And I would agree. You know, if somebody hands you a workout routine, like a coach at a high school, right, or a personal trainer, it's very easy to say, I'm paying for this, I don't want to do this, right? But the reality is, if you walk and you enjoy your walk, then you almost feel like you're cheating the system, because it just doesn't feel like working out at all. So remember, Lily, this is a walking channel. I don't bitch and moan all the time, but when I do, one of the things that helps me get over those little irksome moments is my walk. Look, your football team, the Jets, they've been losing every single week, no matter what legend they put at quarterback. So if they're gonna suck regardless, let's go for a walk. We'll be able to enjoy the game that much better despite them sucking. Hey, Dallas Cowboy fans, your team sucks this year. Dak Prescott's out for the remainder of the season. It ain't gonna happen this year. Let's go for a walk together. Let's get through this. Usually every year at this point, I've decided that, hey, the Cardinals season is over. This is one of those years where the Cardinals are actually starting to play better. So who knows? This might be that year where we actually make the playoffs and do something about it. I want to give you guys a little bit of an update. I have not been eating that much sugar the last 2 or 3 days. When you go from eating a lot of sugar to not eating sugar, it's challenging, because you get used to eating a cookie. You get used to eating a little bar of Snickers. You get used to eating the worst things in the house. Now you're trying to stop yourself. And if you can stop yourself, do it. Why, Jesse? Because, Bob, think about this. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to be pigging out for Thanksgiving. And then right when we recover from that, we're going to be pigging out for Christmas and New Year's. This is the time where we need to put all the sweets away. We need to start drinking water. And if you're going to do some extra credit, guys, is there any better time of the year to do extra credit than right now, where it feels like natural air conditioning out here? Put your shoes on. I can do this. You can do this. We can do this. Let's do this. One of the things that I always talk about is that I really like to support the police. But another thing that I talk about is I don't like bad police, because there's a fine line between doing good police work and doing something shady that makes you no different than the criminals. Meet Phoenix Police Detective Jennifer DePonzio. Bum, bum, bum. Used to love the People's Court. Bum, 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 bum. Meet Jennifer DePonzio. She has a lengthy history of misconduct and disciplinary actions. Now I'd like you to meet Randall Barnes. Randall Barnes was accused of first-degree murder, but he never really fessed up to the murder. As a matter of fact, he claims self-defense, but he was up against the potential penalty of serving the rest of his life in prison. So his lawyers decided to accept a plea deal of manslaughter. Now you might ask yourself, if it was self-defense, I don't think I would take any plea deal. I would want to go up and I would want to face the judge and the jury, and I would want my lawyer to defend me, and I would want to be home with my family by the end of the trial because it was self-defense. I didn't do anything wrong. So now imagine that same shady detective, Jennifer DePonzio, was actually the one that provided some of the evidence that led to you being forced to take that manslaughter plea. Now meet Judge Kevin Wine. Judge Wine was upset with the Maricopa County DA because they failed to disclose the fact that Detective Jennifer DePonzio had a shady past, which included multiple disciplinary actions, including failure to complete reports and failure to follow up on cases. Dun dun dun! All right, so let's break down what we've heard thus far because it's kind of crazy. Could you imagine if you were potentially going to have to risk your life on a trial where you took another person's life, but you're arguing till you're blue in the face that it actually wasn't a murder, it was self-defense. All of a sudden, shady detective Jennifer DePonzio has all this evidence against you, so your lawyers tell you, hey, do you want to be right, or do you want to go home and see your family someday? Because right now, if you get found guilty, you're going to be serving a life sentence, and there goes your life right down the drain. So in order to be smart, he bites his pride, right? And he decides to take a plea deal. Now, here's the question I have for you. If you took a plea deal to avoid life in prison, only to find out that the detective whose findings were against you was shady, would you want a new trial? Well, Judge Wine felt that it was deserved, and so he tossed out the manslaughter charge. See, for all the crap that I talk about judges, sometimes they have to do a really tough job, and sometimes you need a judge like Judge Wine to get things done and to say, hey, I know there's people like Jesse that are going to complain about me letting a potential bad guy out, but if it was a bad detective that's the reason this person's in here and this person claims self-defense, well, by golly, we're going to toss out this manslaughter charge. You might ask yourself, well, if they found out that the detective was a little bit on the shady side and not on the up and up, why was there a charge in the first place? See, here's the thing. When you take a plea deal, you are locked into that plea deal. The judge said, hell no, we're not locked into this. I'm tossing it out. And so he tossed it out. You see, Jennifer DePonzio was guilty of repeatedly lying. She actually mishandled evidence. And then when it came to testifying, she claimed disability to avoid testifying. That shady woman. Here's the horrible thing about it. It kind of looks like the Maricopa County District Attorney went out of their way to hide this information from the defense team. So imagine your lawyers, it's their responsibility to catch this stuff. And in predisposition conversations they had with Jennifer DePonzio, the defense team actually asked her, have you ever had any disciplinary actions against you? And guess what she said? She said, yes, I did. Back in 2007, I went on a vacation with my husband and I didn't come back on time, so I ended up missing a couple days. Well, that's definitely something that you've done where you get a disciplinary action count against you, right? But at the same time, doesn't that sound innocent, like no big deal at all? Well, she failed to announce the other numerous disciplinary actions against her. Why does that happen, guys? You know the answer to this. It's just like dating. When you date, people tell you all the good things about themselves. They don't disclose all the batshit crazy things about themselves. And the reality is, if somebody is a detective and they're mishandling evidence and they're failing to follow up on procedures, that's no bueno. I would want my lawyers to make sure that they sued her and got me out of prison too. And that's exactly what Barnes had happen. Her actions actually might go beyond Mr. Barnes's case, because her actions may actually affect the outcomes of, get this, 37 court cases and 61 police investigations. Now we're talking about a lot of potential bad guys getting out, but we're also talking about finding out about a potential good guy or two that's in there for the wrong reasons. See, sometimes people argue with me and they say, Jesse, occasionally we get innocent people that get thrown into prison. They end up telling on themselves and taking plea deals for stuff they didn't do. They end up confessing to crimes that they had nothing to do with. And we know this happens because we've all seen the videos of people, they're in there talking to the detectives. The detectives make them talk for 12 or 13 hours straight. They eventually get mentally tired. They end up signing papers that say they're guilty, and the rest is history. We know this happens a lot. The thing is, does it happen a lot to guilty people? Yes. Does it happen a lot to innocent people? Occasionally. And that's kind of the weakness of our system. There are going to be some bad guys that don't get justice, and there's going to be some good guys that get justice put upon them, and they don't really deserve it. Does that make sense? So here's where it gets tricky. There's an ongoing legal battle, and it includes the ACLU, who's pushing for notifying the affected defendants and their attorneys. But the county's attorney's office is appealing this ruling, and they claim that appropriate disclosures were made. Randall Barnes, I don't know if you're innocent or guilty, but I do think you deserve a fair trial. And if they're making you take a manslaughter plea deal because you don't want to risk the rest of your life, even though you feel like you were innocent, well, I'm manly enough to let you know that you could be right and you deserve at least a new trial, if not complete freedom. But here's the thing, if you really did murder somebody, you probably don't deserve true freedom, so I'm more raising my hand for the new trial. Let's see what happens the second go round. And once again, the prosecution argues that Barnes's plea deal is final, and they resist reopening the case and cases affected by DePonzio's misconduct. See, this is kind of the scary thing. Imagine if you felt like you were cheated. Imagine if you felt like you were innocent of the crime and you wouldn't feel it, you would know it. Hey, I didn't kill this person, right? But now I'm doing time for this crime I didn't commit. Well, the last thing you want to hear is that the DA is protecting this DePonzio character, and they don't want these new findings to come back up. But the reality is, once you find out that a detective who has her hands on the pulse of whether people are going to get in or out of prison and get punished or not, once you find out that that detective is shady and untrustworthy, I think we can all agree that's when you have to kind of examine things. And I think we can also agree that this DePonzio girl, she needs to do a little time in jail. What I want to know is how come all the people around her at the Maricopa County District Attorney's Office, how come it seems like they went out of their way to protect her? And by the way, I thought police and sheriffs, I thought they were on our side looking to capture the bad guy. If you know that one of your fellow police or detectives are the bad guy, I don't think you should be going out of your way to make sure they get away with their bad dealings. I think that that's something that should come to the light. By the way, it is interesting, that saying, right, that everything done in the darkness will eventually find its way into the light, right? There is something about that. I've had situations where people did me wrong, and I ended up finding out about it like 10 years later from different people. Have you ever had that situation? Please share and let me know down below. At abnormal 1621 says she and the prosecutor should share a cell for a number of years. I'm guarantee you there's somebody in the jail cell right now that's probably innocent, and he's probably reading all of this stuff in the newspaper, and he's probably sick. Because even if you know you're innocent, and even if you know you deserve a new trial or for your trial and case to be thrown out, once you're in jail, there's nothing that they can really do. Yes, your lawyer can request a new trial, and yes, a judge somewhere can actually grant that, but it still takes time. And if I was innocent and in prison with a cellmate that I didn't like, the last thing I want to do is spend one more hour, let alone weeks and months longer in jail. God, jail is one of those places it's like, oh, you would not want to be there. At Michael Coplander 7120 says, when you fear integrity and accountability, you are no longer the good guys. Michael, I think that's a beautiful statement. If you're saying the truth, you never worry about the story. If you're saying a lie, you got to make sure you cover all the bases, and you got to make sure you keep that lie going. And it usually requires more and more additional lies. It's interesting. We might not be liars ourselves, but you can't go long on this world without finding and discovering and meeting liars. And one thing about liars, man, they keep the story going and they never give up on their story. The only problem with their story is it sure is easier to remember the truth. Good afternoon. When you're telling the truth, it's easy to keep your story together because the truth never changes, right? But with lies, they're like water. You don't know which way they're going to go. They can go a myriad of ways. But no matter what, if you lie to people, they will eventually figure you out. It's just impossible to keep that lie going, especially if you add more people. Because there's one thing tougher than keeping a lie. It's keeping a lie amongst other people. At Salty Cast Form says, a cop lying in court, ? I'm shocked. Not. So Salty, I hope you're wrong. I hope that 9 out of 10 cops, maybe even 99 out of 100, I'm hoping when they go and testify before the court and before the jury, I hope that they're honest. But I also hope that they realize that if they have to lie to get the conviction, that it's not worth it. You're obviously doing something that's wrong. I wish we had a lot of people that just refused to do morally corrupt things. But unfortunately, we live in this world where people just do the wrong, bad decision all the time. If some people ended up lying on behalf of Detective DePonzio, I hope in some way, shape, or form, I hope they get in trouble too. Do we need a bunch of people losing their job and their careers over little lies that they did? No, but if your lie caused somebody to go to prison, especially for a lengthy time, then can we both agree that's a little bit bigger than a small lie? And sometimes people need to realize that when your friends start to ask you, hey, can you cover for me? I don't want my husband or I don't want my wife to know that I was at this place with so-and-so. Can you cover for me? Every time people ask you to lie on their behalf, they're really not being good friends. Some of our best friends ask us to do this, and some of us do it without fail because we consider ourselves to be good friends. But I think we all know that if being a good friend to somebody means that you have to lie to people, then it's probably a friendship that's doomed. So one thing I always tell people is, hey, if you have really bad news, don't tell me, because I don't want to have to keep a secret. If I have a buddy come up to me and say, hey, I've been your friend forever, tell me the truth, the last thing I want to do is be lying to one friend to save another friend. Does that make sense? We've all been in these weird situations, so I have a feeling you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Paintbrush Full. God, some of these names are just goofy. Paintbrush Full says lots of convictions equals lots of money for the system. They are staying fat and happy at the expense of innocent people. This whole story stinks. You know what's crappy? Even if 99 out of 100 people in jail are guilty, the thing that we all hate is the idea that there's one innocent person in there. So as much as I hate your comment, I think you're 100% right. This story stinks to high hell. What they need to do is they need to do an audit. They need to take a look at every single case that she was on, find out if she cut corners, if she went for easy ways to find answers to things. Because if all of a sudden the easy answer is this guy's guilty without doing your right procedures, then that's wrong. You know, investigations need to be done correctly. And sometimes investigations come up empty for people to force the issue. And we've been hearing about prosecutors doing this around the country forever. And that's what scares me. Sometimes I think it would be best if we could just all go on a lie detector test. And I'd almost rather have the machine pick who's innocent and guilty over a judge and jury, because people are just really fickle and people have bad egos, and sometimes people have little seeds of evil. And I'm sorry, but if you're trying to get an innocent man convicted of something where his life is ruined, what other word can you use other than evil? At Spiky01234 says, I highly doubt this is an isolated case. It's just like that lie. One lie needs dozens of other lies to support it. Otherwise it falls apart, right? So the problem is how can we just accept the fact that this shady detective was being shady and not accept the fact that she probably did shady stuff all the time? And again, if you're an attorney and you're trying to defend the rights of your client, damn right you deserve to know the truth about a detective. Damn right you deserve to know if she cuts corners or cheats on cases. Sometimes people want to be right to the point of being wrong about it. So again, I hope they throw the book at her. And for Judge Kevin Wine, I complain a lot about a lot of judges that do bad things. I gotta hand it to you. This was not an easy thing you decided to do, but sometimes doing the right thing means going against the grain. Guys, that's the same with everybody. Everybody wants you to make that cake, drink that soda, and keep your mouth shut. What you need to do is you need to walk outside, avoid that sugar, and keep going. Do some extra credit. I'll talk to you tomorrow.